Hello, you guys. Hi, it's Malick. Today, I'm going to be talking with y'all about everything interesting that I learned in Paris. Have not used my benefits in so long as a flight attendant. I am going to Paris. I've never been to Paris. I have never stayed in a hostel. Cheapest way to do this trip, because I'm doing this trip alone, there is no friend or person that I can ask for help. I don't know any words in French. I'm so grateful that I'm like taking the leap and just doing this. I learned so much about what it's like to ride the metro, words in French, spoke to people from around the world, had this wealth of experiences, saw the Eiffel Tower. Oh my God, it's lighting up again. After the longest day, I am getting to see the Eiffel Tower for the first time in my life. I did not expect it to be this pretty. This is a sight to behold. It looks so intricate. I think that's the best way I could describe it. It looks so intricate. You can see every detail. It just looks so intricate. Cable cars running up and down it, and it is actually worth the hype. The Eiffel Tower. I feel like a lot of these places that become tourist attractions that bring cities revenue, you wind up being like, well, this wasn't really worth the hype. I was there as the sparkles went on tonight, and I didn't even know that happened. The sparkles where it just totally lights up. I got pictures with the Eiffel Tower beautifully lit up. And the fact that I got to see that my first night in Paris, I almost went to bed tonight, y'all. If you're gonna go to Paris for the first time, what are some things I think you should know? But also, I just kind of want to walk you through, I guess, the nuances that I noticed. Nuances I notice are also from my journalism background too, so I think I really found some really interesting stuff that I want to share with you, stuff that people aren't talking about. It's gonna make you not just feel more cultured, but be more cultured, especially before a trip to Paris. The very first thing that you're gonna notice before you even get to Paris is how much French is embedded in France, which of course, duh, newsflash. But for some reason, I feel like people make it sound like you don't need to know French, or like French isn't as big of a deal as English is in America. You will be on these websites, like with the hostel, the rooms, and how many beds are in each room, how many people are gonna be in each room. All of that information is in French. Even your flight information, if you're booking, especially I'm sure if you book on a French airline, but I booked with a US airline and still got my information for the way back from Paris to New York in French. Google Chrome will translate emails. You kind of get the gist of what's happening, like you booked the flight. When you get on the airplane, there's also the option to select French. It just goes to show there are a ton of people who do not either know English well or do not have, they don't know English. Of course, you can get by in Paris without speaking French. I actually did have like a headache by the end of the trip, because a lot of times you are trying to communicate with someone and you have to either do the work in that moment because you don't know the language to respect them, right? To say bonjour. Like your brain is in overdrive or overtime or whatever you'd say, like a hard drive that starts humming because it's gone on too long. The burden will be lessened if you learn a little bit of French before, or you start just exposing yourself to French before you go. So I actually bought Damon Dominique's culture journal. Damon is a YouTuber who is in Paris. In Damon's video about Paris for the Olympics, he talks about coming to this. I'm pretty sure it's this, it's a church. These steps that he was like, it'd be the perfect date.
What are the cute date spots? Okay, I want to show you this. Okay, Here's what you're gonna do. You're going to meet on the steps of this place. You're meeting on these steps right here. Come on, tell me.
Creates a lot of content surrounding Paris, but also travel at large. I copped it from Smith & Son. You are a global citizen. Dun dun dun. Language is the most basic building block of communication, the origin of all other origins. Before anything else can get done, we need to understand first how to understand. This is the key. Language is less about words and more about understanding someone else. It's less about even grammar and more about making someone else feel seen. It's doing the work to understand someone. That's why learning languages is important and cool. Damon writes, you see, reality itself has no language. Humans created language. I thought that was so deep. Humans created languages in order to effectively communicate with one another. French speaker is going to say livre, while an English speaker is going to say book. They're both looking at the same thing, but they both describe it differently. The object itself is not innately a book or a livre, it just is. When we multiply that linguistic breakdown by the hundreds of thousands of words in our language, and then realize that our thoughts are operating in the confines of language, we can look at those confines and consider the highly contested Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, which states that an individual's worldview is influenced by the language they speak. Your experience in Paris is going to be different if you don't speak French. Do you get what I'm saying? Not just because your worldview is influenced by English and that's the background you have for language, but it's also because if everyone in France that gets France, is from France, loves France, speaks French, when you're not speaking French, you're gonna miss out on a piece of it. Does that make sense? It's not that you're not gonna be able to communicate or not gonna be able to get food or not being able to get around, but that's not what this is about. If you're looking at me right now saying, well, I just wanna go to Paris and I just wanna be able to get around, you're not getting it. Like, you're not getting it. When you actually take the time to learn someone else's language, and when you then communicate in the land of that language, your experience is going to be so much richer than someone else who went to this place but didn't really know what was up. Spent a lot of time thinking and thinking and thinking, how do I ask for this? How do I translate this? I have to ask this person if they speak English, right? A lot of my trip was spent doing that mentally. Of, oh, I'm scared to say something, or even someone says something really simple to me. We were walking up the stairs on the metro, and the guy says something to me, and it was just this moment of, oy vey, right? I could have said something. I think I just said we or something. We were just saying how much the stairs were, right? And I knew what he was saying, but I didn't know how to communicate, and I didn't want to be like talk English back to him. Like, it just felt kind of rude because it was just this moment that was so human and enjoyable. And here I am like breaking the monotony of the moment by trying to understand and switch the language because I don't know French. There were a lot of moments in Paris where I didn't speak because I was scared that if I spoke, I would be revealing that I didn't know French, or I wouldn't know how to say the thing in the way that, like, imagine everyone around you is speaking French and you're ordering at the boulangerie, right? You're getting a little pastry or something, and they have to then go find someone who speaks English for you. That was an experience that I started to become scared. It's just embarrassing. Everyone around you knows that you don't speak French. It's fine if they know you're not from there or you don't live there, but it's another thing for them to be like, wow, he doesn't even know the language. You know what?
This sweet lady just came up to me, and I wish I could help her so bad. This is why I have to learn French. She just came up to me, she's like, excusez-moi, with this whole question, and I'm like, I have no clue, I'm so sorry. And she's like, oh, you don't speak French, it's okay, it's okay. I'm like, Anglais.
And that's one thing I had to learn when I went to Guatemala too, was like, I thought, why do they think I speak Spanish? Do I look like Afro-Latino or something? Which technically, being that my dad's side's from Haiti, I am Afro-Latino actually. But it's not how you look or whatever. It's that you're in Guatemala. So they expect you to speak Spanish because you're in Guatemala. Do you understand that if you were in New York, I'm expecting that you speak English. Like, you could look like you're from a Latin country. I'm still gonna talk to you in English because that's all I know and that's all the people around me know and that's all we communicate in. Of course, people speak Spanish in New York, but, you know, and other languages too, but it's English heavy. The question becomes, why wouldn't you speak Spanish if you're in Guatemala? Like, to someone who is just going about their daily life, they're gonna be like, why wouldn't he? He's here. Even if you don't care about the cultural side of the equation, which I think that you should, even at my hostel, stayed at a hostel that seemed to invite people from all over the world. Met someone from Egypt in my hostel. I met someone from Hong Kong in my hostel. People that would check you in, when you get there, they all speak English. And they're like, of course, right? When I would be like, parlez-vous anglais? They're like, of course. And parlez-vous anglais is just, do you speak English? Parlez-vous is just, do you speak? Oh my gosh. What kind of H&M is this? Is it real? I'm so confused. Oh my god. Okay, maybe we only have a women's section. This is the coolest H&M I've ever been to. I understand why Paris is where fashion is. So I was able to ask someone, again, what you say, parlez-vous anglais? He says, a little bit, tell me. And I was just like, men's section? He was like, no, men's section. And then when you're leaving, what you say is bonne journée. The fact that when I went to the hostel rooftop cafe, which is like the center of this hostel, it is such, honestly, I would not go back to the hostel, but I would 100% go back for that rooftop cafe. It is so beautiful. You can see the Eiffel Tower from there. The coffee was delicious. Great place to be out. I'm sure, especially in the summer, it is simply incredible on that little patio that they have. But even the rooftop cafe worker did not know what I meant when I said for flavors of the latte. I was asking him like, oh, could I add like a flavor to it? And he's like, my English is not very good. That was his response to just something simple like that. Like, I'm just trying to order a latte with like vanilla. I'm like, vanilla? And then he's like, and I was like, chocolat. And then he's like, that we can do. That I got. That's like kind of like a cognate. It's just a word that sounds similar in one language to another, right? So chocolate, chocolat, basically the same thing. Not really a lot of work that you have to put in to even learn that. I think that people see language as a way of communication, but they don't see it as a necessity. They see it as like optional. My reason of why it's necessary is because I believe that it shows that you are respecting the other person. I think it's a thing of respect. If I'm visiting your home and you take your shoes off at the door, why would I keep mine on? If I'm visiting your country and you speak this language, why wouldn't I speak this language with you? I remember on the metro, there was a point like in my notes where I wrote down, no one is speaking English. I don't know what they're speaking, but no one is speaking English. And this was the metro ride from the airport to like Charles de Gaulle to, I'm pretty sure I went to like Gare du Nord, which is a big transit hub in Paris. That's the thing that gets me when I'm like, I don't even know what language they are speaking. This whole trip made me think of this. Flight attendants that work for airlines that predominantly, or at least a lot, serve countries that speak other languages, I think it's pretty crazy. Like, for me personally, if I continued to stay at my airline, continued to work flights to Puerto Rico, to the DR, Madrid, Spain was just announced. Like, if I continue to serve customers that speak Spanish, and yet I do nothing to learn their language and be able to communicate with them, I just think that's crazy. Like, I personally feel like that would be rude of me. And so, based on like my personal values. And so for me, I'm at this point where I like literally bought Damon's course on speaking Spanish actually. And I am like every single night constantly trying to like do that course because I just think it's about respect. I don't even think that. I feel that deep within. I just think it's crazy to have to get someone else to translate. We should all want to learn these other languages. This is something that US airlines and airlines around the world should pay for. I asked ChatGPT, like, is this a thing? Do airlines offer paid language training for crews? And ChatGPT said that there are Middle Eastern carriers, so Emirates, Qatar, Etihad. These sometimes offer language training to meet specific route demands for select staff. Asian airlines as well offer language training for popular destinations. Many European airlines also require proficiency in multiple languages at the hiring stage, often provide supplemental training for specialized aviation terminology in languages like French, German, or Spanish. 2 US airlines, and then my airline does this too, where they'll offer higher pay for language qualified flight attendants. So you'll take like some sort of test, the airline will decide whether or not you meet the qualification of speaking the language, and you become basically a language of destination flight attendant, where you can work certain routes that airline says we need someone who speaks X language on this route. So basically I think that the airlines should reimburse me. Even on the layover, do you really want to be in Puerto Rico speaking English on your layover? I just think it outs you as uneducated, kind of disrespectful because you haven't taken the time to learn the language. Also, as like clearly not from there, when we visit so many countries, you don't want to be giving this vibe that you have no idea where you are all the time. You want to give a vibe that you do know what's up. One of the first things a friend texted me when I told them I was going to Paris were, tell them that they're so rude. Like, tell the French people that they are so rude. The crazy thing is, I feel like in the US, we are actually not the accommodating ones, having now been to Paris. So let's say you grew up in France. You decide at 25 years old, like I am, to go to New York City for the very first time. You speak as little English as I spoke French. I knew nothing other than bonjour. Do you understand how screwed you would be? Like, screwed. No one in New York City speaks French. Not to say no one, but most New Yorkers don't just speak French. If you went up to someone asking for help, multiple people that are working the train station, they would not have any idea how to help you. Like, they'd probably be pulling out their phone looking for Google Translate. Coming from America to France, so many people were able to help me. The metro tellers, not all of them knew French, but we were able to get somewhere. I feel like if it was the opposite, the reverse, you would not be able to actually even get somewhere. You would be on your own. I feel like it's a very US thing to not speak multiple languages and to believe that that's okay. Americans need more shame. We need more shame, though. I feel so embarrassed, and I don't think a lot of Americans feel that way. If I can't speak the language, or someone says something to me and I don't understand, I feel ashamed. That pit of your stomach feeling, where you're just like, oh, I didn't know what they said. I wanted to respond, I couldn't help that person. I feel so much shame. I don't think most Americans feel that way. I think most Americans are okay with it. They think it's kind of funny and cute. I really had someone the other day joke that said, I don't speak Spanish, but I understand it. And the other person goes, I don't speak it or understand it. Ha ha ha. And it's like, that's not funny. That's really sad. Then the signs in Paris, like for emergency exit, I think it's sortie de secours. I don't know how to pronounce it. They would not have the French translation on an emergency exit in New York City. Maybe the Spanish one. Or even for priority seating. Like, there were so many translations, the English translation of whatever it was saying if it was important, and I just thought that was so thoughtful. The thing that should empower you on your trip is that you actually, even though you may not notice it, already know a whole lot of French. Damon's book honestly really helped me understand that. We'll often borrow words from other languages where ours is lacking. Déjà vu in French, for example, translates to already seen and is a quick way to understand what is meant by the sensation of feeling like you've lived this exact moment already. Whereas in the US, it would take, you'd have to say, I feel like I've been here, right? We don't have like a word for that. We just say déjà vu. C'est la vie, right? This is life. You're speaking French. Fiancé, cliché, rendezvous, a faux pas, a coupe, right? When we talk about the government, we talk about something being chic, poisson. Sabotage is also a French word, believe it or not. Touché, encore, hors d'oeuvres, carte blanche, which is unlimited freedom to act. Voila, nonchalant, laissez-faire. Entrepreneur even is a French word originally. ChatGPT said it comes from the French verb
entreprendre.
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 Entreprendre. Even devour. I wonder how many of our words have French origins, because it is uncanny the amount of words that I have realized are actually French or of French origin since I started looking for it. And ChatGPT says this is due to historical events, particularly the Norman conquest of England in 1066, when the Normans, who spoke a variety of Old French, took control of England. French became the language of the ruling class, law, and culture, while Old English remained the language of the common people. Over time, the two languages blended and many French words were absorbed into English in areas like law, government, art, cuisine, and literature. So, courage, beauty, ballet, restaurant, machine, education, table, government, music. It's insane. You're speaking French all the time. The influence of French on English is so extensive that at one point it is estimated that up to 40% of the English vocabulary has some French origin. In English, we will say please. Please watch my dog. Please go on a date with me. I promise I am like the best boyfriend. I'll be so great. Prove it on the date. Please, like even if someone doesn't want to go. Do you hear what I'm like? That's what I'm trying to hint at. Please sit down and relax. You're at a doctor's office or something and you're trying to just fill out the form and go. And like, please sit down, take a seat. And you're like, I don't want to take a seat. But you feel this like you have to take a seat or you're the bad guy. And the more common, I guess, please in French is s'il vous plaît. A direct translation of s'il vous plaît is if it pleases you. Really what they're saying or what they're asking is if it pleases you to please me, then do this thing, right? If it pleases you to watch my dog, watch my dog. But if it wouldn't please you to watch my dog, if you're scared of dogs, don't watch my dog then. If it pleases you to go on the date with me, then go on the date with me. But of course, if you're not interested, hey, go do something else with your time. If you don't feel like sitting down, if maybe you just were on a 5-hour flight, then stand up. It's okay, right? But in the US, we're not really asking, or we're not really saying please. We're kind of selfishly saying, do what I told you to do, but we're putting this nice cherry on top. I would have to spend more time in Paris to know if the actions of the culture actually live up to the language and the way that they say it. However, just looking at it from this perspective, I actually think that they're way more respectful than us in the US, and like based on just the language. And I actually found them to be really respectful. I didn't see, like they say excusez-moi, you know, new interactions with like people that work for the subway that just, I know one of them, I don't even think I said bonjour. I had just gotten off the plane and was like with all my bags and I was just so confused trying to figure it all out. And she was like, Gare du Nord, like that was like, you know, it was just a very serious. So I was like, oh, she wasn't that nice. But for the most part, everybody there was super chill and sweet. And that's what I think people don't realize about Paris. It's the only city that I've been to ever that has a keep up culture like New York City. I was coming around the corner, I think I was transferring trains, and at like a big station, I think it was Gare du Nord, or however you say it. And I actually really don't know, like that I don't know how to say it.
Gare du Nord.
Gare du Nord. That right there, what just happened, I felt that it was rude to just be like, I don't know how to say it, whatever. I'm making a whole video about Paris and French and all this, but I don't know how to say it, so I'm just gonna brush over it. Like, I feel like that's the respectful thing to do, is to just look it up. I see the train coming in like fast. Before it stops, the doors open, and this was a packed train. The people are standing like at the door. The train is still moving, and it wasn't like 0.5 seconds before the thing was stopping. It was like they were still going, and I was like, whoa. And so I asked ChatGPT about this, and being from New York, I had a feeling it was to keep things moving, because if you open the doors just even a minute, a second earlier, everybody, the second the train stops, or they feel safe to, they can hop off. And I didn't see anyone at that moment jump off before the train came to a complete stop, but I did see this later. There are some trains in Paris that you actually open the door yourself.
Some of the trains have a release thing. So the conductor, when you get to the station, will release the doors, and then you have to manually open the door with your hand. Okay, so this is a picture that I took in Paris of the doors at one of the station. This is the little lever that you would use and push it up to get the train door to open. Magic. And I even got to do it myself. Crazy thing, sometimes the train won't even be stopped and the doors will open. So cool.
This is gonna be a huge tip for you, so you know what's going on when you get to Paris. But you will open the door on your own. And I just thought that was so cool, because I've never seen that on an underground train. I have seen that in cities like Sacramento. Out west, there are these cities that you actually hit the door and you open the train door for yourself. So they're not opening all the doors for no reason. This is due to a combination, it said, of manual door operation and older train systems. Because in New York, a lot of the newer trains that are in New York City, the train wouldn't allow the conductor to do that. Like, you have to be stopped in order for the doors to allow the conductor to open them. Never have seen a city, and I have been to San Francisco, I have been to Boston, I've been to Seattle, I've been to Vancouver, I've been to London. I have yet, London does have it a little bit, but I didn't feel it in the way that I felt it there, where it's like, keep up, let's go. People have things to do. You'll feel that in New York, that like keep up culture. And that's what ChatGPT said. It said it's designed to be fast and efficient. On the newer automated trains though, ChatGPT said this is for line 14. You won't see this. I found what I would call like New York City aggression getting on the train. Like, let's go. It's not necessarily that they're being mean, but it's just keep up. Like, you have like I had 3 bags and they're just like, what is going on with this guy? Like, keep up. And that is kind of what you get in New York. So I think if people are looking at Paris as this laid back place, and then getting there and they are met with that kind of New York City aggression, I'm sure that people are shocked. Then they say, oh, they're so mean. But really, and just what, this is honestly what people say about New Yorkers too. People are like, New Yorkers are so mean. But it's just not the truth. People just have places to be, especially when I lived in New York. Tourist, if you've ever lived in a big city, I don't know, I think New York is like probably the only place where you'd feel it hardcore. Maybe San Francisco. It's the worst feeling when you're walking amongst slow tourists taking pictures. And so you may act a little aggressive, but it's not that you're a mean person. It's just like all these people are in my way, especially in New York, because so many different people from so many different places and cultures visit New York. You'll have people walking on the left when it's like, no, in America, we walk on the right. It's just a mess. And you're just like, I have this meeting to get to in Times Square. Like, I just need to get my groceries and go home, and y'all are in the way. Not everybody's on like a trip or something. With the metro in Paris, if you're at some of the bigger stations, like Gare du Nord, I want to say it right. Those stations do have a really big gap in between the train and the platform, bigger than I've ever seen, which was almost scary to me. I was just like, this is wild. I did notice though a difference between the two keep up cultures. I wrote down that there was a driver, I maybe was like my Uber driver or something, but he didn't honk, but instead flashed headlights at a driver when he wasn't going fast enough. In New York, it would have been a honk. I don't think in New York someone would have flashed their headlights. Unless they're telling you to like go or something. Paris is this lowercase keep up culture, and New York is uppercase keep the F up. Because Paris does have this more laid back lifestyle than New York. You'll notice this in so many different places. For example, the restaurants. First off, can we talk about how there's no tipping? Thank the Lord. It was so nice to go to Tiger. It was so nice to not be expected to give. Again, this is where I go with, actually the US is less accommodating, less true of what they're saying, right? Please doesn't really mean please. Tipping isn't really tipping. Tipping is supposed to be the way it was introduced to me, I'll say. I had a great service. I really enjoyed the waiter, how accommodating the waiter was, how kind the waiter was, what this person did for me today. I'm going to tip based off of that. We are at a point now where tipping is just so that the person behind you in line at the coffee shop doesn't think that you're a dick. For example, I order Uber Eats. I always tip 20%. They are doing an incredible job for you. But why am I tipping at the coffee shop every single time I go? Is it because I don't want someone to think that I'm a bad person? Because if then, tipping is actually incredibly selfish. At that point, that's not tipping. At that point, that's not giving from your heart. That's not giving because the service that you had was so great, right? You're just tipping because you feel like you have to, which is not what tipping's about. If you're worried about being judged, then the tipping is dishonest. The tipping is not real. You're doing it as an act of self-interest to make sure that people feel a type of way that you want them to feel about you. In that case, don't tip. I think you should tip when it is in your heart, like, man, this was such a great experience. I'm gonna tip this person, you know? And also then I think you tip larger tips, which is cool, versus giving everybody $1. Notice this in Canada too. You just don't have to tip. Why do we do this to ourselves in the US? Loved the fact that I could eat my food, pay for my food, and just walk away, and we have this still positive mutual exchange. Was just, what I didn't love so much was that they do not check on you. And it's so funny to hear me saying this because just yesterday I walked into a Whole Foods in Atlanta, Georgia. So I was in the South, pick up one thing from the skincare section, and these two ladies are like, "Are you finding everything okay?" I wanted to disappear, but also remove them from the universe, because I was just like put them on Mars. Could we do that? Because that, it's like harassment. like you should never ask someone. It sounds so bad. It's too much. I know my friend Chantel, if she's watching, she'd be like, "You literally hate service, Malick," because in London, they checked on me way too much. But in Paris, they don't check on you at all. Like, never. The problem with that is, how are you supposed to get the check? Maybe I would be more accustomed to it if I spent more time in Paris, and maybe I'd wind up liking it. Because their whole point is you should sit down, finish your meal. Even Elena Taber, which I've been watching her videos lately, she's living in Paris right now.
Taking a little bite on the street, it's so good. One thing that is different about French culture, they do not eat or drink while walking. So anytime I'm like taking a bite of my sandwich while walking on the street, I'm like, what can I say? I love an iced coffee and a hot girl walk. And both go against the grain of French culture. Like when I say this to Parisians, they're like, what do you mean you want your drink cold and you don't want to sit and enjoy it? I'm like, you know what? I like a coffee on the go.
Restaurant I went to in the Mamar, so probably a ton of tourists eating around there. They didn't even have to-go trays for my food. So if you saw me stuffing food into a napkin, no, you didn't. Because they don't have to-go trays, because their whole idea is that you should finish the food fully and enjoy the food. It's normal for many restaurants in Paris and other parts of France to not offer to-go trays or boxes. French dining culture, and this could be different from cafe culture. Dining culture places a strong emphasis on savoring meals at the table rather than eating on the go. However, this has been changing slightly, so if you go to Paris soon, you may be able to get a to-go tray. You could still ask, because there's this rise in takeout culture, especially in casual eateries and due to recent environmental efforts to reduce waste, because I couldn't finish all the food, okay? And I was like, why would I throw this away? I just paid for this. I can't finish it, because their food is so good, and it leaves you feeling like full, but not full the way you feel in America. It leaves you feeling satiated. Say this to ask for a takeaway box.
Est-ce que je peux avoir une boîte pour emporter, s'il vous plaît?
S'il vous plaît. There it is. If it pleases you to have that takeout box for me, then let me have that takeout box.
Est-ce que je peux avoir une boîte pour emporter?
Est-ce que je peux avoir une boîte pour emporter?
Est-ce que je peux avoir une boîte pour emporter?
But I'm gonna get it one day, y'all. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna be speaking French. And y'all gonna be like, whoa, everybody's gonna be shocked. Keep up, but like, take your time, right? Enjoy your food. We're not gonna bother you. That's why they don't come and check on you, because they don't want you to feel like rushed or bothered. But then again, here we go with me saying again, I need to spend more time there to understand what's going on. Because what I noticed when I went to cafes, RECTO VERSO, Candle Kids, Coffee, was it Candlelight Kids or something like that? It was like this too. I didn't go over there, but where you're not allowed to have laptops out, maybe for certain hours, maybe for the entire day the store is open. You're not allowed to film even at RECTO VERSO, which I found these things so interesting. And someone actually clapped back on my TikTok and they were saying, rich of RECTO VERSO to talk, because RECTO VERSO became popular over social media. So if they never had people making content, would they be this super famous cafe that me visiting Paris, I'm told via TikTok that this is the one I need to go to? That's my question. Which one is true? Because either if the reasoning, which I haven't fully confirmed this, but if the reasoning behind the laptops, people not wanting the laptops, like cafes in Paris, popular ones at least, not wanting the laptops out. If the reasoning behind that is, well, if you're gonna sit on your laptop for 5 hours and relax and do work and do all this stuff, then we can't serve someone else. But then they don't check on you to get you out of there. So do they want you out of there or do they want you to stay? To be consistent, it would be either we check on people, we want them out, we don't allow laptops, we don't want you sitting for a long time in any kind of establishment. Or the other consistent thing would be to say, no, you can have your laptop out, you can do whatever, you can enjoy your food, whatever you want to do. That's why I actually think the laptop thing is not really about that. It may be about that, keeping things moving, and also cafes are usually smaller. At least RECTO VERSO was incredibly small and intimate, so sometimes cafes can be really small. And I could see how a few people hogging the space could be annoying, even if you have this relaxed, laid back, enjoy yourself lifestyle in the city. I wonder if it's about just taking a moment to disconnect and be in the space you're in. I think for RECTO VERSO, and I could be wrong, because I actually reached out to them to interview, but I haven't heard back. I think that it might be a thing of, well, we made this space for y'all to enjoy, and so are you enjoying the space? Like, if you're here, are you here in the space that we designed for you to take in?
Oh my God. I'm like about to cry. I'm like getting chills. They just reposted my video talking about how I couldn't take pictures in there. And like, this is the stuff that I want. Oh my God, like that, this shit is my dream. So they said, we have thought for so long about how to spread a message about all the decisions we've made recently as we understand your excitement about our cafe. And this adorable video we found on TikTok seems like a good reason for us to finally express ourselves about it. First of all, we feel very grateful that we get to share this space with all of you, and we love the curiosity and enthusiasm our space brings. It took us a long time to idealize it and turn it real. It's very difficult for us to manage the quality of our products and service while dealing with the social media crowd. Suddenly, it became quite overwhelming to be exposed to so many people's phones and cameras every day. Some people were visiting us for the sole purpose of taking pictures, videos of the cafe. Furthermore, and even worse, using our space as a set for sponsored content.
I'd be pissed. I didn't know this. For this is literally like the journalism I want to do so bad. Oh my God. It's crazy because like, this is the stuff they're not talking about CNN, but on CNN or on major networks, but this is the stuff that impacts like everyday life. Like these are the stories we actually all care about and that bring us closer together. Like this is the stuff. Oh my God, I'm so hyped right now. And outfit checks. Without our permission, most of these posts don't even mention recto verso. The vibe was changed less personal. In order to protect ourselves, our image, and our small business, we have to request our guests to limit the amount of photos and videos being taken, particularly those involving faces of others. You and me, we're all getting so used to having a camera in our hand at all times, taking pictures of everything and nothing, that we forget the most important thing is to live in the present moment. We've been open for almost 2 years and we feel so fortunate for all of the things we've done in such a short period of time, and we couldn't have done it without your ceaseless support. Feels good to know that most of our guests have a sense of empathy and compassion to understand the boundaries we are setting. Bonding, sharing, connecting. That's what really matters to us. God, that's like what I stand for. Oh my God, that's so cool. Oh my God. I'm gonna comment right now. I'm gonna send this to my friend in London. I'm gonna cry. Oh my God. This is the stuff I really care about, and I feel like no one does. But I mean, I know that we all do. Like, we all actually care about like being seen and being heard. And like I feel like people don't make decisions like this for like shits and giggles. Like, I'm cursing so much, but like, no, because I'm so passionate right now. Like, this is the stuff that really matters to all of us. And like, it's so hard when you constantly are being basically told by mainstream media that the stuff that you want to do doesn't matter. The stuff that you want to do isn't journalism. The stuff that you want to do isn't real. And like, this is real. Like, this is the stuff that actually is about us. This is about us, like, not the freaking shooting that happened last night. Like, but this, like, I mean, you Google Austin and you're gonna see shooting, domain, East Austin. Like, it's like, is that us? Like, is that really? Of course, maybe that's a part of humanity, right? But like, why are we focusing on that? Why is that the only thing that gets highlighted? Why don't we talk about connecting and sharing and bonding and being with each other and our devices and how we're lonely and how like we want, like, I don't know, the stuff that I talk about, hookups, like, you know what I mean? Like, why don't we talk about that stuff? And I'm just like so grateful that they genuinely saw meaning in what I posted to the point that they wanted to repost it to all their followers, like this cafe that's going viral in Paris. And the fact that I have now this, I'm sure they'll answer my DM now, they better. But the fact that I have this, like, now I have this reach as an international flight attendant and an international like correspondent, and like the fact that I'm like really getting somewhere at this point where I feel like I am making part of the impact. Like, this feels like the start of me making the impact I wanted to make. And being in this job for 3 years, I'm like, is it gonna happen? Am I even making waves in the world? And it's like, yeah, you are. So God, mercy. The water bottles that they had, even on the plane, the cap doesn't come off completely. The cap has like a little attachment on the back, and it keeps the cap connected to the bottle, which I thought was so interesting because in the US, and even when I work flights to Canada, and when I work flights to Mexico, I have never seen a cap like that. The type of cap design is common in some European countries, including Paris. Serves a few purposes. So the number one would be the convenience. So like, you're not gonna lose the cap because it's always gonna be stuck to the bottle. There's so many times where I'm serving water on the plane and I put the cap somewhere and I'm like, where is the cap? And it happens very rarely that I don't find it. But if I don't, that entire bottle of water has to go in the trash because we can't just leave open water on the plane. You could spill during turbulence, or like it's just kind of gross. You've got your croissant in one hand and you're holding your water bottle in the other. If you just reach your hand up to the top of the bottle, you can unscrew it and the cap's gonna stay on. You can open and close it basically with one hand. Environmental impact is another thing ChatGPT brought up. Some brands will use this design to reduce plastic waste.
This is so cool. I feel like I'm studying abroad. It's crazy. I'm navigating France without my phone. I mean, I used it a little bit, but it doesn't have connection right now, so I really have to read the signs and be alive, be here. What I love about France, you can see on some of the candies, like for example, a Kit Kat there's an E rating. It's just so easy to know what's worse for you and what's better for you. I want to look this up. Why are the soda cans flipped upside down? Does that make them drop out better? Does that mean it gets jammed less? Is that healthier? Why don't we do that in the US? And some of these are right side up. The cans are right side up. You know, it's interesting. They even sell water. The water is $2, €2.
My entire life consists of conversations with ChatGPT at this point. These upside down sodas are an intentional design choice because they're gonna make dispensing easier. Why don't we do this in the US? I've never seen this in the US. So by flipping the soda upside down, the vending machine minimizes the amount of fizz released when the can is open. This is because the liquid settles near the opening. I saw when I was in Paris like Halloween decorations and I'm like, that's like an American thing, no? And funny enough, it's actually not an American holiday, but it's yet another thing that has become Americanized to the point that you would believe like, oh, this is such an American thing. And I guess I was shocked to see them celebrating it. Even seeing like a pigeon in Paris was weird to me. Fun fact, pigeon means fool in French. Something that is so simple, like seeing a pigeon, turns into this, oh my gosh, this is so weird, there's a pigeon in Paris. Oh my gosh, the leaves are changing in Paris. No wonder people are scared to travel. If in your mind you think that all of these places are gonna be so different, it's like, no. There are trees in Brazil. People are living the same lives, have traditions, have culture. It's just a different location, and that makes it a little bit different, a different kind of people, a different culture. But the essence, like, there's weather in Africa. I just think it's funny that I had these thoughts because I was like, maybe that's what stops us from traveling. It's not even the fact that the place is far, it's that we think life isn't happening over there because we haven't been. And that's what's beautiful about travel, is that once you go somewhere, I feel like you kind of unlock the place to yourself. Because from then on, you'll say in your head, oh, well, in Guatemala, or oh, well, in Vancouver, or oh, well, in Paris, right? And your brain will start to just welcome this. It is to me also kind of like sad. The US has created this leader of the free world mentality that makes you think that if you go to France, the sky is going to be purple and the people are going to be orange. Not the case. If you want to take the trip, don't let these little nuances that are actually like they're happening here too. People are going for runs, people are eating out. Paris is a real place. It's not just a dream destination. So don't let the things that are different stop you from exploring or from going to this place and unlocking it for yourself. I actually saw this piece from Stay Tuned recently where Maya Eaglin, I believe is her name. She's interviewing this girl that's an expat, which it's so funny that we in the US, if we move to a different country, we get this fancy term of expat versus everybody coming to the US, we just call them immigrants. This girl that Maya was interviewing is a content creator, and so she says when she's live, people will say to her, oh my God, you're in Vietnam, are you safe? Are you safe? And she's like, yo, y'all are in Denver, are you safe?
Encouraging people to travel, to get out of this misconception of travel is dangerous and the United States is the safest country in the world because people worry. These people are asking me questions when I'm live in Vietnam, like, are you safe? Are you safe in Colombia? And I'm like, are y'all safe?
Colombia does have one of the highest rates of firearm homicides, along with several other North and South American countries and territories. But among high-income countries with populations over 10 million, the US is #1 for gun violence.
It didn't, to me, feel that accessible. Kind of like other big cities struggle with this. I mean, it seemed accessible, but not accessible. Like there's a ton of bus lines. You don't have to get on the train and go underground. Foldable seats both on the train and the bus. So I guess if you did have some kind of wheelchair or mobility device, you know, you'd be able to store it, especially on the bus. There seemed to be a lot of room for that on the bus. But definitely it seemed like, I would imagine if I had some sort of physical impairment, it would have been a lot to get around and enjoy the city. And I may have also just been doing a lot of zigzagging because it was my first time there in terms of transit, but I felt like I was constantly connecting and going through tunnels and going up and down. And it was a lot. It was definitely a lot. And I wasn't really looking for elevators, so I don't want to comment on them. You know how if you're in the back of a bus in the States, very back of the bus, there's like this step and then there's another step. In Paris, it was just an incline, so you wouldn't need to step up, which I thought was probably for accessibility. Like you could wheel something up there. One thing I loved about Paris is that similar to LA, Paris is a lifestyle. I feel like LA was the first place that I lived, and New York is a lifestyle too, but LA in a different way, where everybody is mentally on the same page of like this health conscious mindset and this very relaxed way of living. Paris seemed similar in that everyone's wearing black. It is the wired headphones mafia out there, which I loved because I was in my wired headphones moment. It's got this older vibe as a city, right? Even with Vancouver, I'd say Paris is like, what someone commented, I think Paris is just like an older Vancouver, no? And it's not just an older Vancouver, but that's the start of understanding Paris. Everyone in Paris has this model look. One, two, like every person walking by is in a fire fit. I'm not saying that all of them look like they're gonna walk the runway in Vogue for Vogue or Paris Fashion Week, but everyone there looks like they could be a model in some way. Whether they were modeling for Old Navy, commercial, that's fine. But they all have that look. Paris and fashion just, there was a guy even that was wearing jeans that had a zipper all the way down to the bottom on both sides, like the seams here. I thought that was so cool. Just like interesting fashion choices. So many people that had cool, like I could just pick things from one person to the next. And they were just doing their normal day. They were just on the bus. They were just on the train. They were just going out to smoke. Let's talk about it. I think this is something most people know. I was not clued in. I did not know that in Paris, they smoke like a pack a day. Like my friend who lives in Paris, she told me that someone she used to work with smoked a pack a day. In this economy, also in 2024 when we know the effects of health, but honestly, I don't think they talk about it. In the US, we've clearly had this national conversation about how bad cigarettes are for you. So then we went to vaping, right? And now everybody's like, vaping's also bad for you, right? Now we're like very low volume having that conversation. It was everyone. I'm sitting down, I'm filming a video. Someone on their porch is getting out, going on their little balcony, and they're lighting their cigarette, going back inside their apartment. I'm like, what? I'm eating veal at that restaurant that did not have a takeout tray, right? And these girls at the restaurant were outside, but they are smoking outside at the restaurant, like in the outdoor seating. In the US, that would be considered so rude to smoke while people are eating or to smoke at an outdoor seating of a restaurant. There, it's not rude. You could tell. It's culturally accepted. Part of me wanted to be like, enforce a boundary right now. Tell them they gotta stop smoking next to you. I think they would have been, number one, shocked, because again, within the context of Paris, no one would ask you to do that probably. But also my friend in Paris, her partner, said that you could ask someone not to smoke. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But he didn't say like in that setting. I think he was saying if you were friends with the person, you could tell them like, could you step away for a minute or something and smoke and then come back. But when it comes to at a restaurant and you don't know the people, I don't know that it would have been socially acceptable to just ask these girls to stop smoking. And they were girls, it wasn't even guys. It was so strange. I'm like, this is so like, in the US, I feel like this would be described as like not ladylike. This was the biggest turnoff for me from the city. Honestly, like, if I ever wanted to move there or anything, the first question would be, could I handle the amount that they smoked? I don't think you could go for a walk in Paris without seeing somebody smoking. Just saying. It gives the vibe of if you don't like them smoking, you need to move. You need to remove yourself. But I'm like, I'm eating at this restaurant. Like, compromise? Anybody?
Something I don't know that I've ever seen before living in New York City. Toilets. And you can even fill up your water here. I just don't know that I trust it, so I'm still gonna not fill up my water here. There are electric car chargers right here on the street. That's crazy. I've never seen that before.
Also, I didn't go anywhere where there was a bathroom code. I went to fast food places just to look at the menus. I didn't buy anything, so I don't know if they have codes, but in the US and big cities, I feel like we're used to like, oh, there's a code for the restroom. You need to buy something. Where's your receipt? That kind of vibe. And in Paris, you're outside, you have to pee. You're outside, you need water. Whether or not these things are to be trusted in terms of if you should drink the water from the fountain thing that comes out, or if you should use the bathroom, if it's gonna be gross. I looked inside one of them. It was a public bathroom. The fact that there wasn't a homeless person sleeping in there, the fact that there wasn't feces on the floor, there was like toilet paper on the floor, it was like gross, but it wasn't, you could go if you gotta go. I haven't seen like a US state pull off successfully like public bathrooms. I was just in Vancouver and saw a public bathroom for the first time and was like, this is so crazy. Do other countries just have public bathrooms? Because in the US, unless it's like a park, we don't just have them in the city. You're walking, you get out the subway, you're walking, there's a public bathroom. On a walk to the Seine, super late at night, I'm talking 1, 2 a.m., I passed École Polyvalente Sainte-Marie. This is an elementary school in the 4th arrondissement. There were these tents, these sleeping bags. Initially, I thought that these were homeless. An article from Le Monde says that back in 2023, at least, these were migrant families. It said that Paris's emergency shelter hotline at the time was overwhelmed. And so what was happening here, and I believe is still happening, they would use this space outside of this school. They would use it at night to sleep. And then as the morning would come, before the students would come into school, they would have to clean up and they would just return that same night to do the exact same thing over again. It said that a lot of these migrants are mostly men from West Africa. They're still also children. I definitely saw women and men out there. I didn't really feel unsafe generally in Paris. I will say that I did feel that night walking just like, I don't know the vibe. I don't know if I was passing just unhoused people, if I was passing migrants. Those were the moments where I was scared. 2 a.m., 3 a.m., walking back to the hotel. The hotel locks their door. It's one of those situations, the front door. And you have to kind of show your key or knock and they let you in. Definitely a major city. And I think that this showed me just how Paris is connected to the world globally. If you want to stay at a hostel in Paris, really do your due diligence. The reviews are not going to lie to you about the experience that you're going to have. The reviews are giving you a heads up. I stayed at the People Paris Nation. The rooftop, like I said, was banger. There were no bed bugs. I survived 2 nights, but it wasn't comfortable because there was, number one, no common area. I did a room of 6 people, including myself, so you can do that, but I wouldn't go higher than that. There was no room to even organize your stuff. Overall, it was just like no bueno. I walked in on someone naked in the bathroom. I feel like he thought I walked in on him. Like the reaction was like, what's he doing here? As if it was like a private bathroom that you could lock, when it clearly, like, it has the showers, it has the sinks, and it has like 10 of them. So clearly, be prepared for anything if you stay in a hostel. Bring your own towels. Maybe bring a cheap towel that you don't care about so you can just toss it, and that's one less thing to carry. And maybe with that, if you bought a t-shirt, now it can fit in your suitcase. Bring a lock from home for your items, because these hostels in Paris, I think it's standard that they're not gonna give you a towel, they're not gonna give you a washcloth, they're not gonna give you toothpaste, anything like that. Like, that's all you. Even a charger adapter, make sure that you have that too, or buy it when you get there. Honestly, I would already have it, because it was such a hassle with your phone dying to then need to run to an electronics store and now communicate to ask for an adapter. Like, with your phone dying, like, that's not a moment you want to have. Charge all your things on the plane on your way into Paris, and then ensure that you already have the adapter for France so that you can just have it and keep it. That'll be like your omen to yourself. Like, I'm going back, I'm gonna travel more. Look for hostels with a common area and good reviews and no bed bugs, right? But you want a common area that is open 24/7. If you don't want to go to bed at 1 a.m., there's not gonna be anywhere for you to go in a country you've never been to alone. The Paris, France hotel, their rates were amazing, and I loved my time. And it was near the Marais. Like, you can find good deals. It's just not gonna be at the W or name brand US hotels. You're gonna find them at the more local spots. But also, those are gonna give you real Parisian experiences. Like, the elevator was so small and the staircase is like spiral. It was so cool. Like, it was a real Parisian experience for me. The flight from at least New York to Paris isn't too long. I would just enjoy it. Fly JetBlue, because genuinely, it's honestly, I flew in a middle seat coming back, and on JetBlue, my airline, the airline I work for, and I loved the experience. And I'm not saying that because I care about my company and I want us to succeed. I'm saying it because genuinely, I did have even more space though, but genuinely, it was an incredible experience. So much food, dig in, then we got pizza at the end. Food was delicious. It wasn't plain food. So flavorful. I care so much more about language and about humanity. I mean, I already cared a lot, but honestly, I'll like, we can get real for this one. Paris just made me really see why I care so much and why it's important to care. All of these things I shared with you, the fact that language is more than just words, that it's respect. It's actually making someone feel seen, taking the time to put in the work to make that happen for somebody else and for yourself too. These destinations, right, that people travel to, I think sometimes I'm really blessed in that I'm a flight attendant, because I know that how much I care about travel. Like, I genuinely care about travel and about the world and seeing the world and embracing it, embracing our humanity. And I think that Paris just showed me that you will find other people who, even from the creators I watch that are in Paris, like Damon, you will find people who resonate. Sometimes I'll look at even other flight attendants and I'm like, I don't think you really like traveling. I don't think you really enjoy flying and enjoy the process of getting somewhere and enjoy the journey of it all. Like, I actually live for that. Like, I'm not here to like arm my door, this is a job, I gotta go. Like, I'm here because I'm genuinely lit up by all of it. Having a place that had so many cultural nuances that I got to learn about, that's on such a major scale, like Paris is like up there with like New York and London. It was so cool. And to be in a place that spoke a different language that I truly did not know. Like, I never took a French class in my life. I thought that was really cool. Paris just, it made me better. I'm excited to share more, make you feel like you learn more of who you are. I was talking with someone recently and we were talking about how like social media makes you feel like you know less of who you are. Or because of social media, we all know less of who we are. And I don't like that. I don't think that's okay. I think that we all need to find our Paris, right? We all need to find a place that makes us excited and it's not just a place. It's like, let's go to Paris, as in, let's talk about the deep stuff. Let's talk about culture. Let's talk about languages. Let's talk about who we are, truly, deep down. And through that, find out more of who we are. I think that that's how we get somewhere that is beautiful and that we as a society can look back on. I mean, this is it, right? Like Damon's book, You're a Global Citizen. Like, we're all global citizens. Like, you're not just a citizen to that place you grew up in or the place you live right now, but you are a citizen of this world. And so we all, I think, as a society, as the world, have a responsibility to make it a better place. And Paris just made me feel like I'm on my way to doing just that. I hope that you have those same moments. Yeah. All right. Bye, guys. Oh, 2 hours of filming. I'm so tired.